So it's got the little 1147cc engine. What an incredible looking car that is. Oh, I had no idea there will be so many classic Renaults. Yeah, great to see a classic standard here. These were built from 47 to 1951. That little Honda S800. Mini pickup behind that. There's that lovely Riley. Wow. Classic Oldsmobile there. Those two Ford pickup trucks. I think it's time for a commercial break. Here is that stunning Vauxhall. Here is that E-Series Vauxhall Velox. Still cars arriving. The Triumph Vitesse Saloon over here. Triumph engine within Norton frame. Well, hi folks, and welcome to the old classic car channel. You catch me mid pre-flight checks, just checking the oil, the water, that kind of thing on the MX-5, because early doors tomorrow morning, Sunday, I'm off over to the Rutland County Showground for an event called Classic Wheels. This is just outside Oakham, between Oakham and Melton Mowbray, the town very famous for its pies. I'll be going solo. The youthful assistant is, I think he's going to the Combermere meet. I think that's on tomorrow morning, but sadly I'm going to miss it this month, so he's going to take his 1927 bicycle over there, and I'm going to head solo over to Rutland County Showground and see what I can find over there. So more news when I get there. Well, good morning folks, it is now Sunday and I am in the grounds of Rutland Showground. Ooh, I spy Renault Dauphine in my rear view mirror. There is that wonderful little Renault Dauphine. Hopefully there'll be lots and lots of cars here today that I've never featured here on the channel before. That looks like a Dauphine Gordini with those wire wheels on it. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, or at least that's where the wheels are from. And behind that, an incredibly rare Renault 10. By gum. Ooh, it's a bit of a chilly breeze today. I wonder if we'll see any 4CVs here today. Ooh, yeah, two great French classics already. Ooh, classic Triumph Herald 1200. So that's got the little 1147cc engine, single carb. That one built in 1966. Just going into position now, alongside a very nice E-Type. Yep, I think we're going to be in for a great day. Look at this glorious Aceca over here, and the little Austin 7 Ruby alongside that. But for now, as cars are just starting to arrive now in decent numbers, I'm going to amble over towards the entrance and capture some of the arrivals. I'm guessing there will be a mix of classic cars and indeed some later enthusiast-owned cars. And as with all these types of videos here on the old classic car channel, I try and feature a little bit of everything, but obviously the main focus will be the older cars here today. Number of Ford Escorts here today. There's a Mark IV, a 5-door, and behind that an RS2000 in our favourite colour, bright yellow. We like that kind of thing. Yeah. Cars are splitting off in different directions depending on whether they're pre-booked into the pole position parking. And I think the club stands are over to the left over there. Yeah, I guess it'll all make sense once all the cars are here today. I've seen a number of Panthers as well. I'm not quite sure what that is there. Very unusual looking car. And I spy very, very smart Unos Roadster. And look at that, a 1959 Cadillac. I'll try not to get run over, but what an incredible looking car that is. It's a 4-door as well. Lovely V8 woofer from the back of that one. There's a good old Triumph Spitfire Mk2. Behind that, another classic Triumph, this time a TR7 drophead coupe. In the late 90s BMW Z3. What a fantastic Ford Anglia. Wow, that looks superb in that colour scheme. Pretty natty set of wheels on it as well. Ooh, classic Saab 900. Ford Fiesta Mark 1 XR2. Escort RS 2000, this time in black. And there are quite a few of the later BMW built Minis here. Who had no idea there will be so many classic Renaults here today. We've got a Renault 8, fantastic, yeah. And another Dauphine behind that, this one from 1965. Another Dauphine Gordini badged, doesn't have the spoke wheels on that one. Fantastic, rare cars in any spec. First of what I'm sure will be quite a few Ford Capris here today. What a beautiful Lotus Elan, registered late 67 or early 1968. Beautiful looking car. This one a convertible with those lovely centre lock wheels. Quite a late bay window VW camper there. It's one of the water cooled ones. The VW powered buggy behind that. Another Panther, sounds like a V6. And behind that we have a Ford Fiesta XR2, this time the Mark II, that one from about 1984. And then we have a trio of classic AC Cobra replicas. Most of them I think are, if not all, are based on the later 427 cars, the bigger cars compared to the original 289s. Pretty cool cars and they sound fantastic. Again, like the Elan centre lock wheels, I think these are Halley brands. It wouldn't be a classic car show without at least one old Mini here. That's a very bonny Mini Cooper. And over there, 64 MGB Roadster. Suzuki Jimny, and behind that a Porsche 944. Runs that date to about 1987ish. Second yellow Triumph Stag of the day. Carefully negotiating the speed humps of doom. Next burbling interview, Chevrolet Corvette. And a very smart Triumph Spitfire 1500. Again in our favourite colour. How many more yellow cars will we see here today, I wonder? There's a pretty rare car, not a Mark 1 Astra. I think that is the Opel Kadett equivalent. It is indeed an SR no less. Another classic Spitfire there. Somewhat modified, rangy. A very, very purposeful looking mid-1980s Ford Capri behind that. Ooh, nice early car, this time a standard. Not quite sure, is it a 12 or is it a standard 14? I think that's probably just post-war but based on a pre-war design. I'll have a closer look at that one just as soon as I can. Great to see a classic standard here. I'm pretty sure with the lack of vents in the bonnet that is a post-war car. If I have a look at the starter handle cover, it'll tell me if that's a 12 or a 14. Yes, that is a standard 14, I think post-war, but I will check on that. If it is post-war, well, that'll be about 46 or 47, that kind of age I would have thought. Capri on trailer. Stunning Chevrolet Camaro open top version there, the convertible version of the late 1960s Camaro, that one with a 67 registration date. What a beautiful car, what a fantastic colour as well. That sounds phenomenal. So many cars here today new to the channel. MGR V8 behind Chevy. More classic Capri action, this time a Mark 1 with the twin lights per side. Is it one of the larger V6 powered cars, I wonder? The RS31 perhaps? It is an RS. Time for American pickups. Ford, followed by Ford. Oh, classic Mark II Zephyr now. And look at the size of the wheels and tyres on the back of that. Big V8 under the bonnet of that one, I suspect. But that looks fantastic. There's a very imposing BMW 7 Series, one of the E38 series of 7s. Which one is that, I wonder? It's a 740iL, so long wheelbase V8 engine. They started out with a 4 litre and later ones were 4.4. Lots of interesting cars pouring now. Look at this incredible Chevrolet. And a great Thames 307e, the Anglia base of hand behind that. TR7 drophead with V8 engine. Followed by a Triumph Stag, also with V8 engine. And a Triumph TR5, the fuel injected 2.5. Triumph TR6, very similar running gear to the TR5 that came in before it. Yep, cars really pouring in now. I got here just in time, I think. Great RS2000 there on the T registration. Ford Cortina Mark II behind that. Yeah, super clean 4-door Cortina. Wow. Is that a GT badge I see on the back wing? It is indeed. Just at the back there. Lancia Delta HF Integrale, made famous in Group A rallying back in the 1990s. I'll well remember marshalling up at Grisdale and seeing those coming through. Now, is that a replica of an early Cobra or AC Ace perhaps? Yeah. Looks like a replica of a 289 Cobra. Pretty cool. The VW Polo GT, a bit lowered. Behind that, another Panther. We've seen quite a few Panthers here today. One of the more modern era Lotuses. And behind that, another Cobra rep. This one based on the bigger, the later 427. Great little Morris Minor, 66 Morris Minor 1000. That's so distinctive exhaust burble. They're heading off into the pole position parking area. Pole position, Jed. The Lotus Elan, one of the front wheel drive M100 series Elans. Great MGB there. Very, very pale yellow. It's not primrose, what do they call that particular colour? And here we have an XJ6, one of the X300 era of Jaguar XJ6s, the model that immediately preceded our XJ8. There's a Golf Mark III. Looks like a little home built over there. Not quite sure if that's a commercially available body, but does look like a giggle. VW Golf Mark II on its tail. Make that two VW Golf Mark IIs on its tail. And this car here looks very, very similar to that other one. What is that? I'm not quite sure. I spy with its lights ablaze a TVR Chimera. I'm sure my youthful assistant, he'll be at Combermere by now, and there's usually a good turnout of TVRs there as well. I'm looking forward to a report from him of what turns up there today. Normally I'll be there, but today I thought I'd pop over here to Classic Wheels to see what turns up over in the Rutland area of the country. This is an area I don't get to too often. There's a TVR S series, an 86 Mini, and a 67 Jaguar Mark II in its mirrors. Nice array of badges on the front of that one. Lovely car. Wow. Another classic Renault 8. What's with all these Renaults? I never knew there'd be so many classic Renaults here today. That's a beauty. And a little Reliance Robin. A good old three-wheeler built in Tamworth. Fiberglass body. There's the Canley built Triumph Stag. Peugeot 205 GTI, possibly 1.9 with those big wheels. It is indeed. LED lamps on the front of this Stag. And oh, a Renault 4 from 1986. Good to see one of those here. That was Renault's answer or rival to the Citroën 2CV. A couple of classic minis now. That looks like a Mini 30, built in '89 to celebrate 30 years of the original Mini. Mercedes-Benz SL R107. And there's a little classic Lotus Elise.
Pole positions that way. Pole positions
Lovely
that
Bentley
way.
Arnage behind that. What a great looking car that is. Fantastic.
Stand right down there.
Built-in crew, of course, which isn't a million miles away from where we're based.
You in?
A little Beetle behind that. Looks pretty groovy in silver. And a Mini convertible.
Follow him.
And a replica Jaguar D-Type.
Stand off.
That looks lovely. A Curiacos blue. Very nice.
Pole position that way then. Pole position there.
And a Carmichael fire tender based on a V8 Rangy. Classic Range Rover there. Bright orange Capri of the late 1970s, pursued by 1950s Ford Zephyr, the Mark II Zephyr. Again, some pretty hefty wheels and tyres on the back of that one. Another great little Triumph Herald there. We've got a Mini behind that. And I think in convoy with the Herald is this incredible little Spitfire with the Ashley full-length roof on it. Ooh, I had one of those on my Spitty many, many years ago. Fiberglass fastback roof, reminiscent of the old Le Mans Spitfires. Pretty cool. Classic Granada now. A 2.8 Gear X. And a magnificent vintage Rolls Royce. Oldest car I've seen here so far. I was hoping to see a bit of pre-war car action here. And that is just a wonderful, wonderful car. There's a little Marlin kit card there. And now that's a rare old Vauxhall, that one. 12 or a 14 horse, they look pretty much identical, but a drophead coupe version. Fantastic, that is a rare old girl, that is. By gum. Vauxhall drophead coupe. Followed by a little Sprite. And another Mini 30. By gum. Ford P100 pickup. BMW Z3M. So that's the fixed head Z3M, pretty cool. Mark IV Escort, the RS Turbo Series 2. Morris Minor with roof rack. I like that kind of thing. Ford Escort there. A stunning pre-war Riley. I wonder which version that is. There are so many different variations of the Riley, and that is a beautiful looking car. It could be a Kestrel, but it could also be a little bit larger than that. But whatever it is, it's stunning, as is the black 190 SL Mercedes-Benz following closely behind. But what a great pair of classics there. Another Vet. With a 2.5 V8 we have the Daimler SP250, fiberglass bodied, lights on. It's a bit of a murky day today. There's a Mini Clubman. Audi TT behind that. Pretty groovy looking Land Rover there. Wow. A Ford Falcon from 1964. Well, that's a pretty rare sight over here in the UK, especially an open top Ford Falcon. Very neat. The Ford Zephyr convertible. Yeah, it's nice to see a few of the old Mark II Fords of the 1950s here today. Yeah. Here we have Toyota Celica convertible and a Ford Cortina 1600E following on behind. Beautiful car. And yeah, quite the gathering of mainly very modified Discoveries. Try not to get flattened. Many of them have been cut down into shorties for off-road eventing and mud plugging. Ooh, another TR7 drophead coupe. And over there, heading into view in black, a much modified Vauxhall Viva HB. Flared arches, big wheels, so quite a few mods going on there. There's a whole gaggle of buggies over there. That's pretty neat. Another early 1960s VW Beetle there. That's a beauty in that pastel green colour. I'm sure there is an official name for it. VW Caddy pickup based on the Golf. Datsun, maybe a 280Z, taking it very easy over the speed hump of doom. I hear metal on concrete as it slowly goes over the hump. Yeah, pretty modified that one. The Vauxhall Chevette. Now that is a limited edition in that particular colour scheme. I forget what the limited edition is called, but I think that was an official thing. The Grenadier, that's it. I may have seen that somewhere before. And look at all these VW based buggies pouring in now, presumably gathered up the road and arriving en masse together for maximum effect. What a great assortment of classic beach buggies. Most famous is probably the Mayor's Manx. Is there one of those in this lot? I'm not entirely sure. But it's certainly quite the sight seeing all these VW based buggies come in, thundering their way in. Cars don't get much more late 60s, 1970s than these incredible buggies. Bay window there, and we have a 65 notchback Mustang following on. Is that a 6 or is it a V8? It hasn't got the 289 badge on the front wing or fender, so maybe that is one of the straight 6 powered cars. Not quite sure. Someone who knows their Mustangs better than me will probably be able to say. And there's another notchback Mustang, that's a 67, so a couple of years later than the car in front. An MG ZT there. and that's the V8, the 260. So that was heavily re-engineered to accommodate the running gear from the contemporary V8 Ford Mustang. A very, very rare car that now. Lovely colour as well. The BMW 3 Series, a two-door BMW 3 Series, one of the E30 cars. Some were 4-cylinder, most were 6. If this one still has its badging on the back, then that will reveal all. A 318 IS, that's a 4-cylinder one, but the IS was quite a rare car actually. And there's an E36, one of the later 3 Series, the coupe behind that. Ford Escort RS 2000, and a fantastic comma lorry. Wow, with flatbed body on the back. What a great little thing. I didn't realise there'd be any commercial vehicles here today. So that's a bit of a treat. I'll have to have a butcher's at that one later. Jaguar E-Type there. It's a Series 2 fixed head coupe. Another classic Herald, this one with Herald on the bonnet, and note the handle in the middle of the bonnet. That tells you it's a fairly early one, probably 1959 or 1960-ish. It's a 1200 according to the badge on the back. It must be fairly early with the handle in the middle of the bonnet. Much modified angle box behind that. And a Jaguar XK8. Amazing Ford here, presumably V8 power. That's pretty cool. 34 Ford. What a great looking thing that is. Much modified Ford Thames 300E. Burbly, burbly, burbly. Big set of wheels and tyres on the back of that one. Hello. Yeah, Bel Air, two-door Bel Air there. Diesel Series 3 Land Rover. Cars and indeed scooters now flooding in to the Rutland Showground. Mustang there. A few later cars surrounding this lovely 1950s MGA Roadster. What a beauty that is. It's a beautiful Chimera there in yellow, and towering over it is, well, the body shell started out as a mini, what the chassis is I'm not quite sure. I'm guessing Suzuki Vitara or Grand Vitara. Those wheels look very similar to those that were fitted to Mrs. OCC's old Suzuki Grand Vitara just a few years ago before we parted ways with it. But yeah, pretty different. Oh, and Lagonda. I think it's a 2 litre. What a beauty. Is it 2 litre? Is it a 2 litre? Yeah. It is a 2 litre, yeah. Fantastic. What a beautiful looking car that is. Great to see pre-war metal coming out to these events. We need more pre-war cars at shows. That's the way to do it. Right, there's the speed hump of doom. The mighty Cadillac wafts its way over. No problems with the speed hump, but clearly, looking at the scuffs on there, it has claimed a few victims over the years. Got a 67 E-Type. That's a 2+2 Series 1.5. Release behind that. Well, Escort convertible here. Don't see too many of these around. Great little 65 midget and an XK8 behind that, and all sorts of cars queuing around the roundabout to get in to Classic Wheels here today, which I think is just a one-day event. Cars approaching from all directions. See hazard lights on with a Maxi just parked over there, so maybe a few little running repairs needed. Oh, the Maxi's got going, great news. Fantastic to see that one here, about 1970, 71, an MG Magnet. I do like those, the little B-series engine with the twin carburetors. More Mark II Cortina action here. And letting this lovely Porsche across is a pre-war Riley. Now, which model is that? Could be a Lynx. And a Maestro based van. Yeah, definitely something for everyone here today. Quite the queue of cars. Quite an early MG Maestro. Not every day you see one of those. That one from around about 1986. MGB Roadster behind that. Impatient VW van heads away. And a Series 3 Land Rover, something electric. What do we have here? A Pontiac. Blimey. Pontiac Catalina, left-hand drive. Some lovely deep wide wheels on the back of that with those dished hubcaps. They look the part. And the Pontiac Star Chief, look at that. Wow. Okay, quick battery change later. Lovely 6 Series BMW follows rubber bumper midget, a couple of Stags, a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow 2. So you can tell the 2s because they have the slightly chunkier bumpers compared to the original Shadow 1. A couple more MGs and a Moggy 1000 behind them. TR7 and the Ford pickup, the F1 pickup over there. Yeah. Real classic convoy here. There's a little Rover, oh, what do they call that? Streetwise, which is based on the 200 hatchback, lifted up a bit, and those plastic mouldings that you see on the front, I'm sure that was the Streetwise edition. This TR7 is badged up 3.5, so that's got the Rover 3.5 in it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a Streetwise, I think. V8 powered Ford here, the pickup. Talking of V8s, we have the MG RV8, another example of that. Mark 1 Mazda MX-5, or Unos to be technically correct, but look at that. Ah, no, it is not a Studebaker, it is a Ford. It is based on the old shoebox Fords from about 1950 or 1951. Wow, that's a Ute. I'll get it right in a minute. So that is an Australian bodied Ute based on the early 1950s shoebox Ford running gear. Right, there we go. Triumph Dolomite, first of those today. The X350 Daimler, Peugeot CTI, Mondeo Mark 1, another E36 BMW Coupe, Z3 behind that, and another MGA Roadster. There's a military matchless motorcycle there, mixing it with the traffic. Passes MGA Roadster, a little Golf Cabriolet there, there's a Scimitar, 4-door Morris 1000, complete with roof rack, period roof rack, we like that kind of thing. GT3 RS, and the Wolseley 1660, and there is the matchless, made its way around. Nice to see a bit of Farina action here today. Staying with the BMC theme, another 4-door Morris, Ford Escort Mark II Estate, man on bicycle, an Ultima. That's one of the Middlebridge Scimitars. There's another Scimitar SE6 behind that. Porsche Boxster. There is the little Golf Cabriolet. Audi, is it a Quattro or the regular coupe? I'm not quite sure. I'm sure someone will tell me it is a Quattro with a lowercase q. Ooh, there's another MG Magnet I spy over there, another 1950s gem with the B series twin carb engine under its bonnet. That was originally a Gerald Palmer design, very similar in shape to the Wolseley 444 and the later Wolseley 1550, which shared the B series engine of the Magnet, albeit I think with just a single carb as opposed to the twin carbs in the Magnet. Yeah, a bit of everything. Ooh, look at that. Not a Morris Minor, that is the Morris Oxford MO. Looks a bit modified, different wheels on it, lowered a bit. But yeah, definitely started out as a Morris Oxford MO with the old side valve 4-cylinder engine shared with the Morris J-type van. Behind the MO we have MGC GT. Quite a few MGFs and TFs here today, and indeed MGBs. Lots of classic cars mixing it with regular traffic now. There's a Honda Insight. Quite the nose down stance. Sounds like a V8. If I had £1 for every V8 car that's come in today, I'd be very well off now. Yeah, pretty cool to see that. And there's that lovely MGC. Stunning car that is. There's a rubber bumper B just joining the fun. Litre V6 engine in that Ford Capri Mark 1 there. I think I'll stick around here for a little while longer, capture some of these arrivals, and then once all the cars are parked up, I'll go and have a bit of a wander around and just have a closer look at some of these cars, and indeed check out some of the cars that no doubt I will have missed arriving here today. So that's a Series 2 E-Type. There's an MGF behind that. Little K-Series engine, mid-mounted behind the seats. Alpha Spider. And this appears, yeah, Series 2 version of the Ford Escort RS Turbo. There's a hot Audi behind that. And a late 70s Capri just over there. I see something white on a trailer behind the Capri, so we'll just wait for that to move out of the way, and being towed in by an Audi is another classic Renault. Wow, is that another Renault 10? By heck, I've never seen so many Renault 10s in one place before. You might see one down at the NEC perhaps, but yeah, wow, what an interesting looking car that is. No 4CVs as yet. Another classic Elan Fiesta RS Turbo, BMW 2002 or similar. That one fitted with alloy wheels and been debumpered as well. And the mighty Renault lorry waiting for the XK8 to be able to move forward. Yep, lovely colour, the XK. That is in fact the 1502, which, if memory serves, these were sold alongside the early 3 Series for a little while. So that was kind of like the entry-level BMW for the late 1970s. Here is the XKR, supercharged XK8. I can hear a scooter somewhere. Mark 3 Vauxhall Astra there. A little Rover Coupe. Couple of TRs and a Triumph Spitfire Mark 3. Very much a long wheelbase, high roofline Jaguar XJ40 over there. Wow. What an incredible thing. Here is that stunning Bentley Series 2 E-Type there, the fixed head, the TR on its tail, Maserati, TR4A, and there is the Mark III Spitfire. Happy memories of owning several of those in varying states of, well, some ran, others did not. Classic 70s Pontiac Firebird, and behind that Granada Estate. Don't forget to let me know in the comments if you've owned any of these cars back in period, or indeed if you do now. It's always great to read your thoughts and memories of the cars that feature in these show videos. And cars are really pouring in from every direction. It is in fact a Daimler limousine based on the Jaguar XJ40. Side pipes sticking out under the sill. Yep, so very, very long, very, very elongated, much higher roofline as well. Try and have a closer look at that one a bit later. Consul Cortina Mark 1, 4-door. I think these Ford Cas are very neat little cars as well. And I spy black Morris Minor behind the Panther, and I'm sure I spotted a police sign on the front of it. I wonder if it's got one of the old period Winkworth bells on it. Let's keep our eyes peeled. Yes, it has the bell on the front. So that is a Series 2 Morris Minor of the mid-1950s. Series 2 saw the introduction of the A-Series engine as standard on the Morris Minor. Previously they had the side valve engine from the Morris 8 Series E. Pretty cool to see that police spec Series 2. More Mark II Ford action here from the 1950s, this time the 4-cylinder Consul with the little portholes, the stick-on portholes on the front wing, very reminiscent of the old Buicks of the 1950s. They had those portholes on the front wings as standard. Another E36 there, Ford Escort van, Mini and a car. There's a Camaro behind it. Certainly hear this one coming. Have a Jaguar E-Type, one of the Series 3s, so these all came with the V12 engine as standard, the Vauxhall Monaro. Basically a bit of an Australian hot rod with a V8 engine, and a much modified angle box just over there. Got a Toyota Supra. I hear lots of electric fans whirring away today here as cars queue into the showground. Another BMW Z3 there. Ooh, I just spotted a Citroen AK400 van just over in the distance, so I'll definitely be waiting to see that come in. Lovely pale blue TR here, and look over there. That is a Panther Rio, which was a heavily reworked, upgraded Triumph Dolomite. Yeah, that's a very rare sight, the Rio. Morning. Ooh, look at that Ford V8 Pilot. Oh, our pale green example is sat at home at the moment. That's quite an early one. These were built from 47 to 1951. The old flathead V8 engine under the bonnet. Oh, yeah, super to see this really unusual Rio. Yeah, Ford V8 Pilot waffling its way in. There's a TR5. Mustang here. Great, really original Buick Skylark there. And here is that little Citroen, the AK400 van. Yeah, the little air-cooled Citroen engine in the front of that one, chunnering away to itself. There's a Volvo 240 GLT, left-hand drive Beetle, and a modern Mustang over here. Saab 96 is pretty cool to see that here today. Super van, look at that. Incredible panel van. Pagoda roof, Mercedes-Benz SL, left-hand drive. Okay, answers on the postcard for that one, folks. Not sure what that is. I'm sure one of you wise people watching this video will be able to tell me what that is. In fact, I can just about make out on the front moulding it says Polaris, so there we go. There's a Panther behind that. Is that a J72, I think? Could be. Remember those, probably built in the 70s, early 1970s. Another of Blackpool's finest there, the Rover V8 engine bellowing away to itself. Here's the little Trojan. So that was a license-built Heinkel, if I remember correctly. Caravan. Royal Enfield bike, MGT series. So that's a TC. Another Panther behind. Make that 3, I think, or 2 Panthers plus something else behind that. First Morris Minor travel of the day. Certainly not the first Triumph Stag. So that was a big club presence here today. I was at a gathering yesterday and a couple of Honda S800s turned up, and neither of them were the fastback fixed roof version, the coupe that we see here. So yeah, really cool to see that little Honda S800. So late 67 or 1968 on an F registration. Great little car that. Oh, definitely one of the Vauxhall E series. That's a Velox, so that's a 6-cylinder car, shared its engine with the Cresta, and the entry level car was the Wyvern, which looked very similar to this but just had the 4-pot engine under the bonnet. So the Velox was sort of the mid-range E series, if you like. Merc there, one of the 124 series cars. Hot Rod. Cobra having a couple of problems. TVR circulates around it. Just gave the Cobra a push, but it's downhill now from where it is. At least we got it off the roundabout. So what else is pouring in? Now, so many of these Panthers. If you look at the midsection, you'll see MG Midget. That door is MG Midget, as I think is the scuttle. Then either side of that is unique Panther bits of bodywork. Ford Escort RS 2000 Mark 1. Triumph Spitfire 1500 in brown. And a huge dollop of Range Rover. Hopefully that'll get out of the way. Yeah, there we go. 2 litre straight 6 engine under that tip forward bonnet. Nice car, the Vitesse. Coming from this direction, we have a Porsche 928, the V8, Mach 1 Escort, and an XJS convertible behind that. It's definitely quite the queue. If your car doesn't like queuing, get here early. There's a lovely Rover there, looks like EP2 perhaps. Mini pickup behind that. You can see the bonnet of a silver Saab 900 in the up position, a tilt forward bonnet. All sorts of cars coming down the hill. There's that lovely Rover. Real quality car, that one. Various different engine sizes were offered on these. Usually the badge gives it away. This, I think, there might be a 10. It is a 10, yes. That's the 10 horsepower car. Very nice too. Lovely P2. Behind that here is that mini pickup on the drilled Cooper S mini wheels. So what can I make out here? Well, MGB, another E-Type Series 3, the fixed head this time, the 2+2. 2CV Porsche behind that, make that 2 Porsches. Silver Morgan, air-cooled 911 behind that. I can see the yellow roof of another 2CV, something pre-war behind that. Heading in from the other direction to the roundabout here, I spy Austin A40 Farina Mk2. So rare to see any A40 at the classic car shows that we get to. The Vitesse saloon on its tail, plus Rover P6. So there is the yellow 2CV, and behind it, yeah, pre-war car, it is a Riley saloon. Something behind that, and then another Lotus Elan, a Frog Eye, another replica of the Jaguar D-Type, what appears to be a Caterham 7 or similar behind that. There's that lovely Riley. What a beauty that is. I wonder if I can find out what model it is. Lovely car, sir. Which model is it? A Merlin. 9 Merlin, right, thank you. That's a Riley 9 Merlin, and what a beautiful looking car that is. Wow, what a treat. Definitely one of the more usable pre-war British cars. If you're thinking of getting a car from the 1930s, you could do a lot worse than the Riley 9. So many different versions, saloons and open top cars, good spares support as well, and lots of technical advice around as well. I'm not sure that's coming to the show. Certainly an impressive load. Rear steering at work on the trailer on this. There we go. Negotiating its way around the back of the tiny little Lotus Elan. Whew, that was a bit tight. Such a stylish car, the little Riley. By heck, an Austin A40 Somerset convertible. Wow. What a treat to see that on the road. I had to come and have a closer look at this A40 Somerset. So what would that be? Early 1950s, about 1953. Little 1200cc engine under the bonnet, which was the forerunner of the B series. Pretty cool to see that. Column gear change, hydraulic brakes all round. Such a rare sight to see one of these drophead versions of the A40 Somerset. How cool is that? Lovely 1966 Austin Healey 3000, let out something. The big Healey also let out that great black Triumph TR2. Pretty rare sight now. There's an interesting home built. Now is that a Cougar or is it a Renault? I forget which. I'll check that one up later, but either way, pretty cool. I think they're Jaguar powered. I do like that era of very early 1950s American car before the Finns came along. Right, Chrysler hopefully is moving and we'll get a better look at the Austin A35. Very bon little car with the sun visor, a two-door A35 948cc engine under the little bonnet there. It is a Cadillac. There it goes. I'll nearly lose my toes. Classic Oldsmobile there. Oldsmobile Cutlass. Two-door. First to admit, I'm not too well up on the American cars, especially as they change pretty much year on year, which makes it doubly exciting trying to identify them. Somewhat easier is this 3.5 litre V8 Rover P6, a bit more familiar to these aging British eyes. Ferrari 308, I think, yeah, 308 GTB. Another 66 Morris Minor, great to see that here. Mercedes-Benz SLK, one of the early ones, followed by Vet, complete with Vet, V8 Vet registration. Somewhat drafty looking Series 1 Land Rover, that's pretty neat with the sides rolled up. And oh, look at that over there, the estate version of the ADO 16. Is that the Morris Traveller or the Austin Countryman version? Either way, rare sight. Another split window Morris Minor. There we go, it is the Morris 1300, so the Morris Traveller version. The mighty Pontiac Trans Am, followed by MR2, followed by Porsche. Very stately looking Bentley whispers its way in. Over to my right, Opel Manta. Don't forget to let me know in the comments which of these cars you would most like to offer garage space to, if the opportunity ever arose. Pretty cool those. I've always been more of a Manta person than a Capri person. No Audi Cabriolet. Not soft top Vauxhall. Pretty throaty sounding notchback Mustang. I can just see another little mini Clubman there. Ford Escort RS 1600i. Dinky little Fiat. Super little Fiat 500, the Nuova 500. These replaced the Topolino. On the face of it, that looks like any other Morris Minor convertible, but that is one of the late MM series. So still with the sci-valve engine, or at least originally, maybe it's been re-engined, quite a lot of them have. That is a Highlight MM from about 51 or 1952. Have a closer look at that when it gets around the roundabout. These have the cheese grater grille, which the early Series 2s also featured. But the centre strip in the middle of the bonnet without the M badge in it suggests that this is the Highlight MM, which actually came along just before the Series 2. Oh look, Dodge pickup, a little half-ton Dodge WC, just like ours at home. So these were built from 39 through to 1947. That's really cool to see that. You very, very rarely see Dodge pickups. You see Fords and Chevys, but it's pretty unusual to see a little half-ton Dodge. And there is the little Highlight MM KKN 849, rare car. Pretty cool to see that. And there is that half-ton Dodge. Wow, that's a bit of a Bobby Dazzler. Great shade of grey as well. Right-hand drive. Very, very neat indeed. By heck, look at this 65 Ferrari. That's the way to arrive. BMW 535i with M badges. Reminds me of the M535i that I used to have many years ago in that shape, the E28 series. And there's a 635 CSI behind that, the big coupe. Look over there. So what is that? I'm thinking Humber. The body shell is not dissimilar to that on our old 37 Talbot. And I'm thinking that's Humber. Looks a bit like a Humber staff car actually, as we used in the Second World War. Diesel power, so lots and lots of changes on that one, but I think that started out as a Humber. I spy something vintage joining the roundabout over there, brass rad car, or possibly now what do we think that is? I'm going to guess standard. It's got a little bit of a hump bit in the top of the radiator at the top. And I'm thinking standard. Hopefully we'll have a better idea when it gets round here. But great to see something vintage here today. A fantastic Dodge pickup, this one, somewhat later than the other, probably late 60s that one, or beginning of the 1970s. There's a BMW Z4. It is indeed a standard. Which model it is, well, there's a guess. I don't know. Great stuff. Yeah, really cool to see that here today, mixing it with the modern traffic. Next to negotiate the speed hump of doom, is the Elan Plus 2, very nice. AJS. I spy another Renault 4, just peeking into view behind the Mini. Another hot rodded Ford behind that. Pretty cool that. Well, that's where all those VW buggies parked up. It's looking pretty full now, the field. I've just got to figure out how to get back in there myself now that the car is way over there somewhere. But I'm sure I'll get in. Public car parking mainly over there. There's one or two old cars there, so if I get a chance I'll have a bit of a mooch around there afterwards. Right, I think before I have a wander around, because I think most of the classic cars are in place now, before I have a mooch around, I'll have a quick coffee and then set off and have a bit of a mooch around and see what we can spot. But yeah, judging by what we saw coming in, there are some fantastic cars here today. I think my plan is to have a look around the club's area later, but saying that, I really want to have a close look at the Renault club over here. And here we have a Renault 8, 1964 Renault 8. Pretty cool, and just like our Renault 750 or 4CV, engine hung out in the tail. These are a lot boxier than our little Renault. And this Dauphine Gordini is for sale. Again, Renault engine in the tail. Pretty groovy, the Gordini. So that's the tuned up version of the regular Dauphine. So rare to see one Renault 8, let alone two, in identical colour schemes. Wowzers. What a treat to see these two here together. So have a quick look, see if there's any info in the window. So this is a 1965 Renault 8, 1100, fully independent suspension, yep, just like this 4CV. All-wheel disc brakes. I didn't realise that. And the engine cover is open, so we can have a quick peer in here. Lots of similarities with our 4CV in many ways. The engine mounted longitudinally in the back. Although in the case of this, the radiator is behind the engine, behind the rear panel, whereas on the 4CV the radiator is tucked under there behind the back seat and fed via air intakes set into the forward edge of the rear wings. So some differences, but some things do feel really quite similar. Yeah, really neat to see those here. And the Dauphines, that is just a stunning car. I know the youthful assistant is a big fan of Renault Dauphines. And look at this, 1986 Renault 4. I do quite like these as well. I'd probably look at one of these before a 2CV, mainly because they just seem to be that bit rarer. This one's in great condition. I used to see these quite regularly in Portugal whenever we've been over there. I think they were licensed built in Spain, just over the border. Even the little side repeater is in the Renault diamond shape, so that's quite neat. Yeah, very cool. Slidey door windows, fore and aft. Must be one of the last cars built that still had sliding door glasses. Unless you know different, of course. Answers on the postcard. Gear lever poking through underneath the dash. Yeah. Pretty cool. And look here, not one but two classic Renault 10s. Oh, these must be even rarer than the Renault 8. By gum. I think these were an evolution of the Renault 8. The Renault 10 was the final development of the manufacturer's rear engine models, which began with the 4CV and Dauphine in the 1950s. There's a bit of the info there if you want to pause the video. Only 25 Renault 10s are thought to remain here in the UK. Wow, pretty cool. And here's the other Renault Dauphine Gordini with the super desirable spoked wheels, and look at the mud flaps. What a lovely little car. Yeah, I know someone who would like this. Just a slightly darker shade than our little 4CV. I do love those wheels, they're fantastic. And if a set of those would fit on the 4CV, assuming you could even find the set, that is. Yeah, they're really, really cool. Oh, engine cover raised on the Dauphine Gordini. So there is the engine, and like our 4CV, radiator ahead of the engine. Yeah, this is much more similar to the layout in our car compared to the slightly later cars where the rad was tucked around here, but this looks very, very similar indeed. Very, very similar installation.
I mean, there's not much of it those days to cover, really.
Bit of info in the window. First registered 12th September 1959. Made in England at Renault UK, Western Avenue, Acton in London. So that's where our right-hand drive Renault 750 or 4CV was put together as well. Pretty cool, 845cc, so slightly larger than the 4CV engine. But a real treat to see this beauty here today. What a great looking car.
Wrong with the tracking.
Right, so I think it's probably time to start having an amble along here. Some of the cars we did see coming in, others we didn't, like this Austin 7 Ruby. Pretty neat. And that wonderful Aceca. So this was basically the fixed head, the coupe version of the original AC Ace. Beautiful gentleman sports car of the 1950s. Incredible shape. Look at the double bumpers. Stunning looking little car that is. Really, really tasty. We carry on here past the V6 powered Chevy Day van and a Series 1.5 Jaguar E-Type Roadster. Roof raised. It's a bit of a chilly day. Lovely car. Yep, Series 1.5. So by this point in time, they had the 4.2 litre version of the engine, the XK, originally fitted with the 3.8. There's our little MX-5 glowing merrily in slightly leaden skies. And a Maserati. Which Maserati is this? I know they did a few of these in the 1990s. I used to work in Manchester back in the 90s, and there was a Mazda garage just down the road. I forget which particular Maserati this is. There was the Shamal and the Carif and the bi-turbos before that. There's a super little MGA Roadster, bonnet raised. There is the B-Series engine with the twin carburetors. Confirming the firing order there, 1342. So what's this based on? 38 Chrysler Royal sedan, somewhat modified, up for sale. Many modifications. Pretty hefty V8 mounted low down in the engine bay. Certainly an eye-catching car. So 1938 Chrysler Royal sedan, all steel. The small block Chevy 403 cubic inch under the bonnet. Right. I have a Ford here, a little Ford panel van. That's pretty neat. So that's the Econoline, I think, isn't it? It's got a Falcon badge, but isn't this based on the Econoline? Pretty neat. Rare thing. There's so many cars here today I've never clapped eyes on before. From time to time we do see Renault 21s at the event we get to, but not this one. Note the plastic covers over the headlights and turn signals there to protect the lenses. So which model is this? One of those sort of cars from the 1980s that used to be everywhere and you wouldn't give them a second glance, but now So rare. It's a 1.7 litre car. There's more to life with Renault, we are told. Yeah, so far lots of Renault action here today at Classic Wheels. Bright red MGA alongside that with the 1600cc version of the engine. And this is the Herald 1250. So the 1250 had the 1200cc engine, or 1147 to be precise. But the main difference between this and the regular 1200 was the standard fitment of the full-length pull-back roof, the Webasto type roof set into the roof there. These roofs are actually removable, they're only bolt-on. So technically, in theory, you could have open-top motoring if you just unbolt the roof, but you also lose a lot of the rigidity in the body. The proper convertibles did have extra bracing in them, and also secondary lock catches to stop the doors pinging open. So you can take the roof off a saloon and drive around, but it's probably not a good idea. But yeah, this is the 1250. Nice and easy to work on, great engine access, and unlike many of the little Triumphs I see with the bonnets raised, this still has these sort of mudguard type things in the side there just to protect the engine from the worst of the road muck kicked up by the front tyres. Yeah, lovely car to work on. If you've got to service a car, that's the one you want to service. Right, and we'll carry on along here. Is this a Sunbeam Rapier? It certainly is. The fastback Sunbeam Rapier, contemporary of the Hillman Hunter and the Hillman Minx. So what year is that? That's on a P plate. I like the old supplying dealer sticker in the back window. From Abbey Road, Bourne in Lincolnshire was where this car was sold from. Jubilee Garage, Bourne. Wasn't that home to the BRM race team? Anyway, here we have a Saab 96, a V4 powered Saab 96. Really neat car, I like that. And I also like this, a much modified Triumph Spitfire ADU 7B. Is this one of the original Le Mans cars? I know they were ADU low digit B registered, so this could be one of them. This is either one of the original Works Le Mans cars or a very close copy of it. Correct wheels, very distinctive wheels on those Le Mans cars. Fastback roof, similar to that of the GT6 but not the same. And yeah, pretty cool car nevertheless. But it certainly looked very much like one of the Le Mans Spitfires. Can't really see in through the window. Very distinctive extra lamp set into the top of the bonnet panel. Yeah, ADU 7B. I'll check that out and put a note up on the screen just to be sure of exactly what we're looking at here. But this is either one of the original Le Mans cars, possibly also used in rallying, or at least a very close evocation of it. But yeah, I'll pop a note on the screen just so you know for sure. But either way, this is a great looking, very early Triumph Spitfire. It's a 64 registration. The Spitfire first came out in 62. Yeah, very interesting little car. Note how the front wings are just riveted on, they're not welded there. We've got the extra slats in the side. Used to be able to buy replica Le Mans bonnets with the headlamps faired in. And these wheels are very distinctive too. Yeah, pretty cool car. I'll do a bit more research on that one. Okay, and next to the super little Spitfire we have another example of Austin A40 Somerset. This time the regular 4-door saloon, also with the pre-B series 1200cc all iron 4-cylinder engine and column gear change. Yeah, I had one of these, and also a number of the Devons that came along before the Somerset. This was sort of the slightly smaller car to the A70 Hereford. Got a column gear shift just to the left of the steering column. Probably just about see that over there. It's all very original in there. Nissan or Datsun Laurel. Who remember those aftermarket earth straps there, which supposedly helped people with travel sickness. Neat to see one of those after many, many years. Okay, great little Ford Escort van there, Land Rover 90 V8 engine on display. Quite a compact engine that one, originally a Buick design. There's that super little MX5 that we saw coming in quite early doors. Great looking little car that. VW camper. And here's that mighty caddy, the 59 Cadillac. This one looks super original. Huge, huge car. Height of the fin era. These 59s have these massive, massive tail fins. Incredible looking things. And this one looks so original. Like I was saying before with American cars, they change pretty much year on year. And oftentimes it's quite difficult to keep up with all the changes. Like for the 60 year, the fins were a lot smaller. 59 was sort of peak fin, if you like. A pretty incredible car. There's a California plate on the rear shelf. Yeah, pretty groovy. Huge, comfortable wafter, that one. Yeah, pretty incredible. And it even comes with built-in tow rope. Yeah. Good luck towing that. Toyota Celica GT4, Z3, and here's that great little Ford Anglia. This lovely maroon example. It came in a little while ago, debumpered, so many modifications. Bucket seats, the world's smallest steering wheel. It's super clean in here. Broad speed badge over there on the end of the dash. Lovely. Great paint finish as well. What a great looking little car that is. Porsche 911. Here is the 5-door Saab 900 that I did see arriving a little bit earlier when I was hovering around the entrance to the showground. This one on a G plate with the slopey front. The earlier 900s were much more vertical, the headlights and the grille at the front. Happy memories of Dad owning a 5-door 900 turbo many years ago in the early 1980s. That was a 1979 Saab 900, one of the very first left-hand drive 8-valve turbo. Yeah, pretty cool to see this one here. You don't see too many of the 5 doors around now. Most of those are the 3 doors, arguably a little bit sleeker than the 5-door. Right, let's carry on. Some tasty badges on the front of this water-cooled bay window. The British Motor Racing Marshals Club. So when's that? Early 60s perhaps? A beautiful badge. I do like that. And over to this side, the BARC, the British Automobile Racing Club. This is a fairly early MGB. It's on a 64 registration. They first came out in 62, but you can tell this is an early one because it's got the pull handle type of door handle. So you pull that out to open the door. That was replaced shortly after this car was built, probably by your regular fixed handle with a little spring-loaded push button at this end. I think arguably it's probably thought that these might impale pedestrians if they got a little bit too close. Very classy interior, especially in the early MGB roadsters like this one. Yeah, great to see that. Really stylish looking interior. Aftermarket steering wheel, but otherwise looks pretty original. And I do like the old radio grille in the middle there. And it's still on Steelies with these circular holes as well. So it's nice to see one that isn't on chrome wires. 2 products of standard Triumph on the end here, the Spitfire 1500 and this lovely standard 14. I think it's just post-war. Yeah, 1948 standard flying 14. So this model was probably introduced pre-war. Technically the flying label was dropped on the post-war cars, but we won't get too picky. But the pre-war cars have vents in the side of the bonnet panel. For the post-war standards, the 10s, the 12s, 14s, etc., they just have the blank panels here. Bit of history there if you want to read the blurb, just pause the video. But yeah, this one from 1948, a time when the supply of new cars was very limited here in the UK. And many of the cars that were actually assembled here went for export to bring in much needed currency, given that the country was still on its knees at the time of this car being built following the Second World War. A beautiful interior, lovely leather trim in there, very agreeable. So yeah, great to see this stunning just post-war standard 14, complete with radio aerial on the scuttle as well. That's a beauty, that is. I love the sort of half waterfall grille on these particular cars. Next to the Jeep Wrangler we have those two Ford pickup trucks I saw coming in quite a while ago now. Pretty impressive pickups. That's the 1950s, went into the 60s and the 70s. Designs of pickups sort of closely emulated cars. The idea was to make these more and more car-like and more capable of being used every day, not just for carrying stuff around. So power steering and lots of comforts began to appear on the pickups of this era. So this is sort of like the fleet side body, much smoother than the old step sides where you have the separate rear wings like on our 47 Dodge back at base. Huge load bite. You could get a few Harleys in there, couldn't you? The Ford Ranger XLT. So this is one of the higher spec models, I think, with all this bright work and trim down the side, including this little piece here. Very original. This one looks like a bit of an oily ragger, probably coming from somewhere hot in the US of A. It's got a New Mexico plate there. There's the 7 Series slammed on the floor. The Ford Escort RS 2000 with the very distinctive seats that incorporate these fishnet head restraints. All your boy racers in the 1970s like this kind of thing, the RS 2000. Lovely example in, I think it's a very dark blue. Again, dealer supplier sticker. We like that kind of thing. Over on the Wirral, here is that Mark II Cortina GT. Very well equipped dashboard there, lots and lots of gauges and instrumentation. Lovely polished steering wheel there as well. Not dissimilar to that fitted to the Cortina Lotus, the Mark II Cortina Lotus. Roof is raised on this bay window camper, side door open so we can have a quick peer inside, admire the relatively commodious interior. Perfect for a weekend away. You've got a little stove as well. I think it's time for a commercial break, and here we have 4 vehicles from the PC Howard Limited fleet over at Kingscliff, Peterborough. Starting up with a Thames Trader, or make that 2 Thames Traders in fact. So what's this, late 50s, perhaps beginning of the 1960s, articulated with trailer. So you've got the coupling is under there, the 5th wheel coupling, and the articulated trailer attached to it. Great to see that. Another similar vehicle alongside it as well. So 2 articulated Ford Thames Traders. Lovely sign writing as well. RHA, the Road Haulage Association, on the front there. Yeah. Lovely proper sign writing. Beautifully restored and turned out here today. Ooh, look at that. I like that. Huge battery box, and it's got Enfo English Ford in the top of it there. I've never seen one of those before. I wonder if this one's got one. No, this is different, this one. Equally shiny, beautifully turned out, of course, though. Yeah, really neat to see these 4 fleet-owned vehicles. A sedan diesel. That's a rare old girl. Look at the trailer on the back of that, all aluminium box trailer. So what's that? Freeman's of London SW9 Limited GPO returns. Wasn't Freeman's like a mail order catalogue type thing? Rings a bell. Pretty cool to see that. And probably converted to living accommodation in the back. What a belter that is. Rare to see one of these sedans anywhere nowadays. I think there was one on the Cheshire Run this year. That's pretty cool. And over here we have a Dodge. Not an American Dodge, this is an English Dodge. This one has a Leyland diesel engine in it, according to the little badge on the front there. What a beauty. There's that pretty rare Polo GT. We have a Jaguar Mark II. Oh, there is that. The Vauxhall, the drophead coupe Vauxhall. I must have a look at that and the rolls alongside it before I go. Right. So this is 3.4 litre. So about 210 brake horsepower, give or take. Could be manual overdrive, could be auto. It is manual overdrive. Many people who seem to know about these things rate the 3.4 as the best overall engine of the lot. A little bit revier than the 3.8. 3.8 had another 10 or so brake horsepower as standard, so 220 versus 210. But apparently these were just a little bit happier revving compared to the 3.8. But either way, I'd be happy with either. Fab little Mini. Here is the Reliant Robin. That's pretty groovy. Let's just amble down here. Peugeot's Minis. There's one of those Mini 30 editions. The Merc SL, the R107, VW Beetle here. Oh, the Mini, the roof is down now on the Mini convertible. And here's that glorious Ecuria Cost Blue Jaguar D-Type replica. OVR 879 is the registration. And these would go on to serve as the inspiration for what became the E-Type. I do think these Dunlop wheels look fantastic. Here we have Mark II Zephyr or Zodiac, I think. Extra louvers in the bonnet, so maybe not everything is quite as it appears. A lovely Ford here. A Pontiac Firebird.
No, I didn't.
Ford Granada. I love the shade of blue on this Volkswagen Beetle here. What a great looking car that is. And here is that incredible Rolls-Royce, the vintage Rolls-Royce, complete with the adjustable slats on the radiator so you could control the amount of cooling you had as you drove along. Beautiful, beautiful car. Oh, the slats are being operated. Let's get another action shot. There we go. Demonstrating the adjustable slats, so you close them up when you want the engine to run a little hotter or warm up quicker in the winter. And then once it was up to temperature, you'd open them up for increased cooling. That's pretty cool. What a magnificent car. And look at the engine there. Just a beauty. It looks like you have to remember to turn the Spirit of Ecstasy around before you open the bonnet to avoid collision. Here is that stunning Vauxhall, a two-door drophead coupe. This is based on the 14. So the 12 and the 14s look very similar. This is a 37 Vauxhall DX 14 6 6.4 six-cylinder engine. So there was the 12 and there was the 14, but not much between them really. But this has got a fantastic drophead coupe body on it. It really is a treat to see that. You see the odd saloon around, but very, very rare. Very unusual to see one of these incredible drophead coupes here. You've got seating for 4, so technically this would be a drophead coupe, a foursome coupe. Room for 4. Floor change, Vauxhall 14.6 badge on the dash there. Pretty cool car. Great view down the bonnet as well. Look at the detailing. You've got the adjustable, like you sometimes get on Daimlers, the adjustable door armrests for height. You can adjust those up and down. I love the little wooden sort of plinth things around the window winder. Just great attention to detail on pre-war cars. The more you look at them, the more you see. There's that lovely little Clayton heater just nestled away under the dash. I must admit, pre-war cars are my favourites really. Don't get me wrong, I like post-war cars. I've got a couple of post-war cars, but my favourites are definitely the pre-war. The detailing and indeed the quality is often just so much better. There is the other Mini 30 alongside a very bonny mid-60s Triumph Herald there. That's great. Extra little Lucas lamps on there as well. This one also has the full length roof. Now it could be another Herald 1250, or it could simply be a Herald with a full length sunroof added to it. Not quite sure. I've got a feeling they are different grills. I'm going to cheat and go and have a look around the back. But lovely little car, very, very shiny. It is a 1250, yes, it is a 1250. Yeah, pretty cool to see another Herald 1250 here today. There is the Ford P100 pickup. There's the Z3M with the M3 engine there on display. These things go like stink. BMW M Power. I like that kind of thing. Just check the welds around the diff mountings and the boot floor, because if you drive it too enthusiastically it can pull the welds out. And here there's a stunning 1930s Riley. Which model is this? It is a Kestrel. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful looking car. I know the Harley is a huge fan of these. In fact, we both are. They are so sleek, such a sleek looking pre-war car, just an absolute beauty. Incredible shape. Pre-war Rileys don't get much better looking than that, I think. Here is that Mercedes-Benz 190 I caught a glimpse of driving in before. What a stylish bit of kit this is. Very glamorous indeed. An incredible car. Bonnet raised on the Saab 900 Turbo 16S. That is the 16 valve engine. Pretty cool car. I do like these 3-door cars with the extra body kit down the bottom of the coachwork there. I remember when these came out in about 1984, the 16S version of the classic Saab 900, and ever since I've been very, very keen on the idea of owning one of these. Okay, we'll amble down this road. Another super little Renault 4 there. Oh, just check out some of the views. There's the Aceca convertible, the Mark 1 Golf GTI.
I see the trend.
Here is that Spitfire. So we've already seen the Le Mans style Spitfire, but this is a much modified road car with the Ashley hardtop fitted to it. The Ashley fastback roof fitted to Mark 1 to 3 Spitfire. I'm not quite sure which one this is, but it's definitely one of the earlier cars. It looks pretty cool. Like I say, I did have one of these on my Mark 3 for, well, just a couple of days. The problem I had with it was I had two huge pipes sticking out under the back like that, but I could never get this rear opening boot lid to seal properly, so it used to draw all the fumes in through there. And yeah, he didn't feel too well after a while of that, so I ended up taking off the Ashley roof and replacing it with the original folding soft top and the original boot lid, which you have to take off when you fit this Ashley fiberglass fastback roof onto a Spitfire. I remember one time before the car was on the road, these are sort of like a compound curve, these rear side windows. One of them shattered on a particularly cold night, and Dad ended up making a template out of aluminium to the same shape and bent it to the right shape. Got some perspex, put it into the oven, and actually formed a replacement rear side window, albeit in perspex as opposed to the original glass. So it's pretty cool to see this one here today. There's that beautiful little Beetle. RAA stickers in the window. Is this an import? It's right-hand drive. Great looking little car. See if there's any clues. Australia, right. There we go. South Australia. Here is that Chevette Grenadier limited edition. And where have I seen this one? Possibly at the NEC. Certainly pretty unusual car, this edition. I'm guessing this is probably the only one that survives. Alongside that, here is that much modified Vauxhall Viva HB. We have a Ford Mustang on its original dished wheel trims. It's pretty cool to see those still on the Mustang after all this time. Okay. And on the end here, another MG ZT with the Mustang V8 engine. Ford Cortina 1600E, and here is that super rare Humber Scepter with blacked out windows. I'm pretty sure it didn't have those originally, but a rare survivor. This is one of the Arrow series cars, these boxy 3-box saloons, which were sort of contemporary of the Cortina Mark II that's alongside it. Yeah, that was known as the Arrow series, the Hillman Minx, the Hillman Hunter, and this, the Humber Scepter. Going somewhat further back in time is that stunning Lagonda, the 2-litre Lagonda from the 1930s. Huge set of Lucas lamps on the front. Front end view of the 66 Cadillac. M5 version of the E39 5 Series. There's a lot of engine under there. And here is that incredible Ford-based Ute, an Australian-bodied pickup truck, or coupe utility. So it's a 49. Right, I guessed at 50. But yeah, very similar shape to the old Bedford Utes that I brought in from Australia many years ago. I often wonder if I'll trip over one of those at one of these events that we get to. Oh, hello. Yeah, super rare. I've never ever seen one of these before anywhere, based on what was unofficially known as the shoebox Ford. Most of the time you see sedans in the old photographs. That sounds a bit unnecessary. But yeah, what a beautiful little Ford this is. Presumably the running gear and the front end were shipped over as a kit of parts to Australia. Then the coupe utility body was added and bodied locally in Australia for the local market, and then this has been shipped over here in more recent times.
Yeah, so we didn't make it to the trial.
Trio of BMC beauties here, the Morris Minor 1000 in four-door form with Union Jacks and pretty groovy original 60s or 1970s roof rack attached. I'm fond of a nice old roof rack. So that one's on the C-plates from 1965, this one's slightly later, but also with roof rack slightly later, but maybe not by much. It's an Evershaw. Probably can't see that, but it says Evershaw on it. Many modifications. Looks like it's a very well travelled Morris Minor, that one. Great to see those two together, and alongside it is the Wolseley 1660. So this was the Wolseley version of the Morris Oxford and the Austin Cambridge etc., complete with illuminated radiator badge on the front and a trusty old BMC B-Series engine here, fed by a single SU carburettor. So this would be 1622cc. Previously there was the 1560, which looked very similar, which had the slightly smaller 1489 version of that engine. This is a Middlebridge scimitar, so when Reliant stopped making a scimitar, Middlebridge took over the rights for the production and built a number of these cars sometime in the 1980s, I think it was. This is a Reliant scimitar, one of the SC6 versions. Vauxhall Cavalier here, and a GT3 RS, by complete contrast, on the end of this row. A super little MGA converted to racing car spec. Very bucket seat, singular in there. Tiny little aero screen, and a very tuned up MGA engine there, fed by a pair of Weber carburettors, aluminium radiator. Some of the slats removed from the original MGA grille to increase cooling. That's a pretty groovy looking car, on painted satin black wire wheels. So that looks just like a proper 1950s racer. That's a pretty cool car. Like I say, I'll try and feature as many of the cars as I can. And here is that MO Oxford with very different engine, a huge V8, shoehorned under the bonnet, where at one time there would have been a 1500cc little side valve engine, but not in this one. From the side it's very easy to mistake one of these for a Morris Minor, but it is slightly larger. But the main difference, if you've got nothing to scale against, is the MO Oxford has curved window frames, whereas the Morris Minor goes straight up to a sharp corner like that. That's how you tell them apart, and I've got a feeling this piece here is wider on the Oxford compared to the Morris Minor. Pretty cool to see this one. You don't see too many of these around. Yeah, lots and lots of modifications, but it's pretty cool because visually it looks pretty much standard, apart from those chunky wheels and tyres. Pretty neat. Right, here is that Honda Insight from 2000, so 25 years old. Like I say, one of the first electric cars offered in any great numbers here in the UK. And we carry on down here. Got a Capri 3 litre there, and on the end a Series 2 E-Type Roadster. Well, here's another car I saw coming in that I really wanted to take a closer look at. A little Series 2 Morris Minor police car. Now, is this a Winkworth Bell? It is indeed. There we go, Winkworth. And the little police plate on the front. Oh, that's neat. So it's a two-door, and it's got long body moulding, which I've droned on about before. But this moulding that runs along here where the roof panel joins the back panel on a few cars, two doors in the 1950s, for some reason this moulding continues on to here, whereas on other miners the gutter comes down and chops that off there, and this is flat. So this is a long body moulding car in Morris Minor geek circles. But yeah, very, very neat. I think it's got the wings off a Morris 1000 on the back with the slightly smaller cutouts. Police. Be nice to have a look inside at some of the extras. Nice Tudor heater. I'm not sure if you can see that just under the dash. So an aftermarket heater, because if you wanted a heater in your car back in the 50s, you often had to pay extra for it. Yeah, that's really neat to see that here today. Okay, next row, lovely Triumph TR5, but I am drawn to the Ford V8 Pilot alongside it. If that plate on the front is anything to go by, this is a 48. These were built from 47 to 51. Ours is a 1950. Yeah, pretty cool. V8 Pilot, no Ford badges on them anywhere, at least on these that we tend to see at the shows. The very first V8 Pilots did have a Ford badge on the spare wheel cover where it says V8 Pilot, but after not a long time the Ford badge was replaced by the V8 Pilot badge. Huge slab of Bakelite in there as well. A great looking car, based on the mid-30s Ford Model 62, but with a larger 3.6 V8 side valve engine under the bonnet. Pretty cool. Here is the BBMF Avro Lancaster. Wow. 4 Merlins purring away together. What a fantastic. That certainly caught everyone's attention. What a fantastic sight. Bonnets raised now on the Saab 96. There's a little Ford V4 engine, just like on the Audi, well ahead of the front axle line. Because originally these were powered by the little two-stroke engine. Pretty cool to see two Saab 96s here today, and the little Moggy 1000 there. Look at this amazing VW. Is this the Type 3, the square back or estate? Quite low to the ground. A few goodies on another period roof rack Lovely original grey paint, I like that. Yeah, a few goodies up there. Looks super original. Rear engine, VW 1600L variant. Yes, all the goodies on the roof there, very low to the ground, presumably on air. Oh, and there is that incredible little panel van that it came in with, in a livery of Pepsi Cola. The Mercedes slightly later than the 190 SL. This is the Pagoda Roof SL. This is that Polaris that we saw coming before, and a mighty Merc on the end here. There is the MGTC that I caught coming in before. Not quite sure what this is, but this, well, we know what this is, the Morris Minor Traveller. Yeah, pretty cool with the visor, all over grey. Yeah. Looks like it's got a tubular exhaust manifold on this one, so a few subtle mods. Yeah, pretty clean under there. Brake servo tucked away as well, and an alternator replacing the dynamo for charging the battery purposes. And here is that super little Honda S800, the little coupe version. That's a real treat to see that. Only yesterday I saw a couple of S800s at a local gathering. One was an open top car, a roadster, and the other was, I think it's probably based on a roadster but with a much longer rear deck. If you check out the Weaver Wonder 2025 video, which may or may not already be out by the time this video goes out, you'll see the two cars that I'm referring to. But it's really cool to see this one with a fastback hardtop coupe roof. Yeah, lovely little car, very dainty little car, very low car. Really groovy, unusual and rare little car. I like the locking filler cap arrangement on there. It's quite cosy in there, but room for a spot of shopping, I imagine, but not much else. Yeah, great little thing that is. Here is that E-Series Vauxhall Velox. Yep, 6-cylinder engine in this one. Original registration and the original plates, the old Blue Mel's number plates. Really cool to see those. And that's quite a neat look at that Vauxhall. See the V in the middle there? So that's a proper optional extra fog lamp fitted to this car. That's quite a rare thing to see. You don't see those all that often. Yeah, pretty neat looking car. So this was the E-Series of Vauxhall. Early ones of these had a bonnet that could be opened either side, although they dropped that after a while. Neat how the door handle is built in, so the chrome strip that runs down the side and around below the screens fore and aft. Yeah, I can see an old supplying dealer plaque in the middle of the dash. Column change. It's a nice flat, fairly uninterrupted floor in there, so room for 3 on the front bench seat at a push. Yeah, nice to see one of those. Especially nice that it's still got its proper registration on it. Appropriate headgear on the rear parcel shelf. Pretty neat. Pretty cool. One of several replica Cobras here, but my eye is drawn to this great little two-door Austin A35. Note the little perspex block for pulling up the window. No wind-up window on the A35, or indeed the A30 that came before it, or the A40 Mk2 that followed later. Yeah. So there's a little 948 engine, sat quite low in the engine bay. So this, we've got some info here. So it's a 1957 car, this one. Registration date 2nd of October 1957. Yeah. Very neat. So very similar to the A30 that came before. Just a few updates, slightly larger engine, bigger back window. The gutters over the windscreen were different on the A30. This gutter carries on around above the screen, whereas on the 35 it comes down here and directs all the water down here, and then when this seal gives up, which eventually it would do, the water comes down the gutter behind there and rots away your bulkhead and forward ends of the floor as well, usually, if you let it. Yeah, great to see such a smart example of one of those here today. Got an MGB, rubber bumper car there. Mark 1 MX5, few modifications under the bonnet, including strut brace and a very distinctive V-dub on the end. Lovely, fairly early Triumph Stag here. I do like the ones that have the body colour sills without the stainless covers on that came along with the Mark II. I think they just look a little bit sleeker. Alongside that, the Jaguar 420G, so that was the revised version of the Mark X. This has the 4.2 straight six. The Mark X had the 3.8. Huge, comfortable, comfy cars. Yeah, the 420G, presumably G for grand. Yeah, big car, dwarfing the little V-dub that's alongside. Okay, let's go up here and see what else stands out. Porsche 914, it's a lovely little car. Mark 1 XR2, I saw this one coming in from a distance, but I don't think I recorded it when it came in before. We got a Bamboo Edition Citroen 2CV, MX5 Mark II. Got an Escort gear, 5-door Ford Escort. The E-Type Series 3, the V12, a 2+2 with the roof and the extra row of seats in the back. Be there, Porsche 911, that looks pretty cool with those really wide flared arches, a little bib spoiler on the back. that's neat. Mustangs, old and relatively modern. And just past this 5-litre Mustang convertible here is a great little mini pickup. This is the one I saw coming before on the Cooper S wheels. Got circular holes drilled in the wheels. That was a Cooper S thing, I think. Yeah, a lovely example here. Next to that, the Rover 10, the P2 series of Rover. Lovely car, real quality car. That's a 47. They were also built pre-war as well, very similar pre- and post-war cars. Hot rod pickup truck there, one of the X350 era of Jaguar, the aluminium body cars. Ooh, the sun's come out, it's getting pretty warm now. Alfa Romeo 145. Escort Mark 1. It's a twin cam, there's the Lotus twin cam engine. Still cars arriving. Two classic Yanks now. Here's the olds. What was this? It's for sale. 10950. Let's have a quick look at the spec. A lot of car for the money. Oldsmobile Cutlass F85 2-door sedan, 1963, 3.5 litre engine. Nice car. Big, but not too big. That's nice. Of course, by this point in time, big fins were out. A much more muted, modest finnage was a feature of most American cars by this point in time. And while the fins are impressive, I do prefer the slightly more subtle cars that came along before and indeed after the big fin era. Although there's no denying they were certainly distinctive. This is my kind of era when we're talking post-war American cars. So what year is this? Very beginning of the 50s, or could be late 40s, this mighty Caddy. Incredible looking car. Really, really tasty. Yeah, real quality car this was. Southern California Caddy Fleetwood, 3-piece rear screen with nodding dog on the back shelf, left-hand drive of course, being an American import. Yeah, amazing car, beautiful, probably rides along silently I would have thought. Incredible thing. Right, so is this a Renault or is it a Cougar? It is a Renault. Yeah. I remember sending off for the brochures for these back in the 1980s, which are still tucked away somewhere back at base. So it looks like we got a straight 6 in this one, judging by the many pipes sticking through, the bunch of bananas sticking out the side of the bonnet. Pretty cool looking car. I'm sure that goes along very nicely indeed. And here, wonderful dark black example of the Triumph TR2. And here is that A40 Somerset drophead coupe, the open topped Austin Somerset. So we saw the grey saloon before, and this is its much rarer cousin. All pretty familiar. My Somerset saloon was like a beigey brown sort of colour, and I think it's fair to say I never really got on with it. It's one of those cars that just never really seemed to run right for whatever reason. But yeah, this is pretty cool to see this here today. I must remember to take a few photos for the file, because it could be many years before I see another one of these. It's a sort of car that tends to pop up at big events like the NEC, but it's very difficult to photograph cars in some of the big indoor meets. So whenever I get the chance to photograph something really rare like this outside, I grab it with both hands, because the opportunity might not come along again anytime soon. But yeah, a real treat to see this. So the standard little 1200cc engine under that bonnet.
No more TR3A. What do you mean TR3A? A project one. Oh, well, just as well. Yeah. So I normally drive.
There's a little sticker in the window there advising that it had passed its 10-year test, the roadworthiness test of the early 1960s, which later became what was known as the MOT. But when the MOT, or the 10-year test, first came out in the early 1960s, it saw many old cars pensioned off and on a one-way trip to the breaker's yard. But yeah, that's what that sticker there relates to. Super original Rover P6 here, one of the 2000s, the 2-litre cars. But looking at the paint, this looks very original. It's always great to see cars that are in what appears to be very original condition, just kept on the road, maintained, but haven't been through the rigours of a full vehicle restoration. To be honest, I much prefer cars that haven't been restored, but just have been kept on the road over the years. The Triumph Vitesse saloon over here. Bit of dog action over there, getting a bit angry with each other. Here's something you don't see too often, a 2-door booted Saab 900 Turbo. So this looks like an 8-valve car, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Turbo intercooler. I had a 3-door hatch about this age, but yeah, this is the booted saloon, which is a bit more unusual. So most of the ones you see have got the hatchback, but this is the booted car. You don't see too many of these around. It's got the old Renaults wheels, very similar to Mini Lights. This was a proper dealer fit option at Saab garages when you bought your brand new Saab 900 back in the 1980s. So fairly early one with a flat front, as opposed to the slopey front of the later 900s. So yeah, it's quite cool to see this one. 8-valve turbo, there is the turbo down there. If it's anything like the one I had, it was a Garrett T3 turbocharger. Pretty neat. One novel feature of these, I think the clutch is actually on the front of the engine, down there somewhere. Intriguing looking Bentley over here, probably mid 1930s in date, I'm guessing, based on the chassis and running gear of one of the sort of 35 or 36, the Derby Bentley cars. Next row, lovely bright red MGB GT and a Derby era Bentley, like I was just talking about. So this will be mid 1930s. You go along to your local Bentley distributor, order your chassis, and then decide which coach builder you want to actually build the body for it, depending on what you wanted. There's a Lotus Elan Plus 2 on the move. A DeLorean here, demonstrating its gull-wing doors. That glorious little standard that I saw coming in before. There we go. Standard cars of Coventry. So, what is it? SL04 perhaps? So, a bit of history here, if you want to have a read up on the history of this particular car. All the blurb is there. Some old photographs, I'm assuming. This is the 11 horsepower Kenilworth, judging by the red highlighting there. 4-seater resembling the Kineton, but with an all-weather hood, leather upholstery, aluminium panels, and larger tyres. Oh, what a beauty that is. Let's just stand back a bit just to admire a lovely slice of vintage British car history. Not sure if this fella's too impressed, but never mind. Yeah, what a cracker. And it's got one of these little Pyrene Junior fire extinguishers, one of the smaller ones, and a Pratt's 2-gallon petrol can on the running board. Very neat. So yeah, 1924 standard V3 Kenilworth. Wowzers. 10,000 V3 models produced, around 30 survive. This model, of which there are 5 known to exist, is the Kenilworth and boasts 4 seats, aluminium body, 3 speeds, 11.4 horsepower, and a turn of speed approaching 55 miles per hour, given a falling wind and nerves of steel. No front brakes, brake lights, indicators, dipping headlights, heater, petrol gauge, motorised wipers, bumpers, shock absorbers, safety glass, seatbelts, synchromesh, automatic ignition control, ignition lock, door locks, or for that matter, no driver's door. And the accelerator is in the middle. Yep, no driver's door, so you would shimmy across from the passenger side. So we get into the driver's compartment. There goes the DB6. Very swish indeed. But yeah, this little standard is a cracker. Haven't even made it over to the clubs area yet, apart from a quick look at the Renault Club stand. But yeah, it's that great little Morris Traveller based on the Morris 1300. Really rare. It's got a bit of the fake wood stuck down the side, just like the Mini Clubman Estates. A rare car to see that. I'm going to have to get a wriggle on if I'm going to try and visit the clubs area. Here's that Super 6 Series Beamer. And this incredible Humber, which it's got a bit of a staff car vibe to it, given how wide it sits on those huge wheels and tyres.
Yeah.
Pretty bonkers looking car. Yeah, very similar shape. Yeah, what's in there then?
It's a Mitsubishi L200.
Oh, it's out of a pickup, is it? Mitsubishi L200.
It's a Super Snipe body.
So it's a Super Snipe, yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's got the stance of a staff car, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of wide and.
I think it was a staff car. But
Yeah.
It's 4-wheel drive.
Is it 4-wheel drive?
Well, the staff cars are never 4-wheel drive.
No. It's cool to see. I've never seen this one before anywhere. Yes. I'll amble down here past the 5 Series, the E28 BMW and the minivan, and here is an incredible Ferrari. I was only reading about one of these the other day, but I'm terrible at remembering Ferrari model numbers. And all I know is the important number is the number that's under the bonnet there, 12 cylinders. That is the important number. What an incredible looking car that is. And this amazing Dodge. I tried to film this one coming in, but I wasn't able to. So let's have a quick walk around the Dodge Custom Royale. Amazing car, late 50s. Like I say, late 50s was the era for the huge tail fins. So what year is that? 58, 59, that kind of thing. Like I say, they change pretty much year on year. So you've really got to know your onions when it comes to these 50s American cars. But we'll just go with late 50s, I think. Amazing car. Dwarfing the little Mini Cooper alongside. And a very clean GTI just over here. More classic American finish over here, thanks to this 1958 four-door Plymouth. Over here we have a Ford Ranchero, a gigantic late 1970s American pickup with the sort of blended in body, very similar to the Australian Utes. Well, it's been a while since that carried a load of bricks. You need your sunglasses, by gum. Bright paintwork, super clean example of a very rare thing over here in the UK, the Ford Ranchero. And the Ford alongside that, it's a Gran Torino. Try not to get in anyone's photos, but yeah, an incredible Gran Torino two-door coupe. Escort gear alongside that. Let's just keep going down here because I spy Mini pickup. Nice shade of blue on the MGB. One of several hot rods that are here today. This one with its huge V8 engine exposed to the elements gladly. Unfortunately, rather, it isn't raining today. Cortina Mk2 MGTF. Or is it? No, it's a Nailer TF. Those door handles were the giveaway. So this is a replica of the original MGTF, but hence the Nailer badge. That's a pretty convincing look-alike-y. Honda CR, what's that? The CRX Del Sol, that's it. I was trying to remember what this was when it came in. Don't see too many of those. MGA, MGB, on the end here, Aston Martin. This incredible machine is a Pontiac. And look at the incredible mascot on the top of the bonnet or the hood. There. Isn't that incredible? These strips down the centre of the bonnet, they are a Pontiac thing. That helps you identify them. Pretty cool. Two-door saloon or sedan. Very well stocked dashboard. All sorts here today. It's been a bit of a run to get over here, but it was well worth the effort just to see so many cars that I've just not seen before, including this XJ6 Series 2. Redlined at 5,000, so this is a 6-cylinder car. The V12's revved a little bit higher, and that's redlined at 5 to 5.5. Probably a 4.2, I would imagine. Doesn't say, but we'll go with 4.2. There's a Scimitar GTC, so a convertible version, I suppose, of the Scimitar GTE, which we have already seen a couple of. There's another XJ6, the X300, specifically a 1996 XJ6 Sport, and a glistening, beautiful example of another BMW 02 here. I love how this trim, this one here, goes around the front, all the way down the side, round the back, and down the other side as well. That's a beautiful example. It's a fairly early one with the original circular band the bomb-ish type rear lights. Later cars had the sort of, what do you call it, rectangular lights at the back, but otherwise very similar. Manual gearbox, very classy in there. Yeah, it's a beautiful car. Look at the paintwork on that. Just really tasty, especially with this full-length roof. Looks like the pagoda roof Mercedes-Benz SL is departing. What a lovely looking car that is. In terms of style, this incredible Riley takes some beating, certainly from the cars that are here today. What an absolutely beautiful looking car. And incredibly, there's a wartime picture of the car heavily bomb damaged during the Second World War. I think if I had to pick a car of the show, that would probably be it. Absolutely wonderful car. What a backstory as well. Already one or two gaps in the lineup, but now time to grab a quick butty, I think. Lots and lots of Panthers here today. I was amazed actually, if you saw the video that I did on our last trip to France, how many Panthers were for sale in that Paul's Classic Cars dealership that we popped in and had a walk around at. I was amazed just how many of these had ended up on the other side of the channel. Here is that super little comma that came in before. Again, beautiful proper sign writing. An incredible, incredible condition. What a beauty that is. Another 6 Series BMW over here. Modified Ford Anglia. And a pretty groovy looking Beetle on the end here. 957 Yum. Clean me. Everything is so dusty at the moment. We've had an unusually dry spell of weather lately. And everything back at base gets dusty in next to no time at all. But this is a super original looking Beetle. Left-hand drive. Very bonny little car. Like I say, handle in the middle of the bonnet. That was deleted after not very long at all. The Herald came out in 1959. Quite unusual that, unlike the standard pennant that came before, these had a separate chassis, so they reverted back to the old traditional means of building bodies, whereas the pennant was monocoque construction or chassis-less construction. Very smart B there. Engine up, a bonnet up rather, on the mighty vet, the C3 Corvette from 1977. XKR. What's this on the back of the Land Rover? A dot scrambler, as they would have been called back in the day. DOT, dot, devoid of trouble. There we go, yeah. Devoid of trouble. There's a brave statement, if ever I've heard it. Little Villiers engine there. Pretty neat. A variety of Triumph TRs tucked away over here. Here is a lovely two-tone green MG Magnet on its original registration, so that is a very good thing. Yeah, beautiful sporting saloon from the 1950s. Really tasty car. I could easily see one of these being in the garage back at base one day. I just think they're really, really cool. This one's got a 5-speed gearbox conversion, so I imagine that makes it quite a usable car. But, yeah, very tasty indeed. I love the shape, the back of the bonnet, how it curves around here, around the scuttle vent, just over there. I'd forgotten about this. The Austin A40 Farina Mark II. Definitely got to take a closer look at this one. So ours is a Mark I from 1960. This is a fairly early Mark II. The Mark IIs came out, I think, in about 62. The early Mark IIs had a shiny grille and still had the 948cc engine, but it wasn't long before they switched to the 1098 units for the rest of Mark II production. This one on a non-dating plate there, so it must be a fairly early one. Let's see if there's a bit of blurb in the window to see what we can find out. So this is registered 9th of June 1964. Acquired in November 78 as a student runabout for £140. Pretty neat to see any A40s. Is this a saloon or is it the Countryman? From this side it's pretty hard to tell. I think it's the saloon. The Countryman has a slightly smaller rear window. And there's one of its old tax discs from 1982. These have the luxury of wind-up windows, which the Mark 1 never had. Different dash as well compared to the Mark 1. Yeah, pretty cool to see any A40 at a show nowadays. This 240 GLT we saw arriving a little bit earlier. Looks like a pretty good auto jumble here as well. Oh, and on the South Leicester MG Club stand, another example of MG Magnet. This one a beauty in black. Wow, always love the proper wooden dash in these. Even the top part, all carved out of wood. And there is the B Series engine, 1489cc, if it's the original unit, with twin SU carburetors. This was definitely quite a sporting saloon of the 1950s. This one, a 1956. Great looking car. Really, really tasty. And on the same stand, a gaggle of later MGs. We have an MGC GT here. There is the huge, smooth 6-cylinder 3-litre engine, sourced from BMC under its bonnet, fed by triple carburetors. A huge amount of work to fit these into the MGB body shell. Completely reworked suspension, torsion bar front suspension on the MGC, unlike the regular MGB. Huge effort to get that big engine in there. They didn't make a huge number of these back in period, and later they switched to having the V8 engine under the bonnet of the MGB body shell to provide a hot version, if you like, of the MGB of the time. Here is the regular engine installation of a typical MGB Roadster. So that's the B Series engine in there. Compare that to the length and the size and the heft of the big 3-litre BMC straight 6 in the car alongside it. So interesting comparisons to be made there. Very tidy white MGB GT alongside that. So this was an evolution of the original MGB. The Roadster came out in '62, and then this, the GT with a fixed coupe roof, was announced I think at the Motor Show in 1965, late 65, for the 1966 season to go on sale. This reworking of the Roadster to produce the GT was undertaken by Pininfarina. You can see a much higher windscreen compared to the Roadster alongside it. So there's a lot of work went into creating the GT, and it's actually a very happy looking car. I think you could easily think that was designed that way from the outset. Very, very neat indeed. Great pair there, and a later MGTF alongside that. Several replica Cobras over here, but look at this one here with a Corvette LS3 V8 engine under its fiberglass bonnet. Wow, I bet that'd be a bit of a handful.
Don't tread on the metal one. It's not.
Actually, appearance-wise, this one is the closest to ours. Same colour with the facelift front end and headlights. You can see there, this is on a 53 plate. Ours was an 04, so a little bit later than this, but not by much. Yeah, same colour as this. Now this is another car which I think I've seen at the NEC, but it's not that easy to photograph or have a proper walk around there. The filming indoors is never great, so it's really cool to see this one out and about here today. A heavily reworked Triumph Dolomite, the Panther Rio. So you can see how the centre section looks pretty similar to a Triumph Dolly, but very different front end and back end on these. I can't imagine they made too many of these. Presumably the grille is unique to this. The headlamps are probably off something else, but I'm not quite sure what. Yeah, pretty wild machine. Even the shape of the roof is different compared to the regular Dolomite, and then things are very different round the back here too. They look suspiciously like Triumph TR6 backlights. I could be wrong, but they look like TR6 backlights, but very, very different. Wings, front and rear, lots and lots of changes. Yeah, what a huge amount of effort to go to for presumably what was a very limited production run. I wonder how many of these they made. Can't have made many. Did they have designs on making lots and lots of these? Because you would have thought the amount of effort that went into making this, they would have expected to sell a few, I would have thought. Must have been quite an expensive car in its day. Electric windows all around. What an interesting old survivor that is. How many were made and how many survive? Answers on a postcard, please. So apparently these were based on the Triumph Dolomite Sprint, the 16-valve Dolly Sprint, and these headlamps were borrowed from the Ford Granada Mark 1 apparently. The owner just gave me a few details about these super rare cars. Hot Rod Alley over here. Now I did speculate that this body might be Austin, but if the badge on this radiator is anything to go by, perhaps it was originally on an old Hillman. Although it could just be that the radiator surround is off a Hillman. Who knows? But whatever. Quite an interesting job. Looks like it's been chopped a bit, so the roof lowered just a little bit compared to what it would have looked like back in the 1930s. But quite an old school sort of hot rod look. A couple of 2-gallon cans on the back. SO. Love the old number plate. I like that. Oh, pretty groovy. Not too much polish has been expended on this particular example. Pretty wild looking Mini. And some much shinier cars over here. There's that much modified Ford Zodiac. It's a left-hand drive Ford Zodiac. These little badges here are off Ford Pop or something similar. Pretty cool. So very, very modified under the bonnet, but externally it looks almost stock. But yeah, many, many things going on under there. There's a little spider crawling up my hand. Right, so that's him gone. Right, let's carry on down here past that incredible Ford. Cortina Mark 1, one of the later cars. Oh, sun's really come out now. Certainly warmed up a bit. Pretty wild looking hot rods there. And here is that Thames 307E. Ooh, another wonderful example of the Jensen Interceptor. What an incredible looking car, that huge rear screen. Yours for a whisker under 70,000. Off goes one of the Triumph Herald 1250s, demonstrating its wonderfully tight turning circle, comparable with a London taxi, they used to say back in the day. Motorcycles are parked up over here. Bit of fettling going on the Norton. Honda Super Sport, and here is that military matchless. Ooh, look at this little beauty over here, the BSA Bantam. Triumph Speed Twin over here.
Well, there was a
great little Lambretta over here. What a Bobby Dazzler that is. A Lambretta 225S. it says on the rear panel there. Wow, that's pretty neat. Well, down here I see a Triton. Now this was a combination of Triumph and Norton parts. Now which engine was it? It's a combination of one manufacturer's engine and the other manufacturer's frame. This one is for sale. Triton. So which way around? Is it Triumph engine or Triumph frame? Right, there we go. There is the answer. Triumph engine within Norton frame. Proper sort of 50s cafe racer vibes going on there. Lovely. Registered in the late 1960s. But what a beauty that is. Swept back downpipes. Amal carb, all beautifully polished up. All those aluminium castings. What a lovely looking bike. Slightly dropped handlebars as well. What a beauty. Big hefty brake up the front there. Yeah, just a glorious machine. It's got a 1956 tax disc. Some lovely badges on the front of this Triumph TR2. My eye is drawn to that one. The Triumph Sports Owners Association. Now, was that a club that was over here in the UK, or was that over in the States? Not quite sure. ORMA. That is related. That was like the Supporters Association for the BRM Grand Prix effort of about 1950. Who remembers the V16 BRM? Well, the ORMA was the sort of the Public Supporters Association, if you like, if you wanted to support financially the creation of the hoped for world-beating V16 BRM. An incredible car, but racked with reliability issues and never really fulfilled its full potential, which was a bit of a shame. Yeah, pretty cool to see that gathering of badges on the front of this TR2, and there's quite an early Silverstone badge there as well, actually, which I've just noticed there, probably from the 1950s as well. So yeah, really cool to see that great lineup of classic enamel badges on the front of this immaculate Triumph TR2. Registration GBL 330C. Is that a clue that this is a Ferrari 330? Certainly something along those lines. I remember seeing the ex-John Surtees example of one of these a little while ago. Incredible car. Well folks, I think that's pretty much wraps up my visit to the 2025 Classic Wheels event here at the Rutland Showground just outside Oakham. It's been really interesting to see all these cars, most if not all of which I've never seen before. Like I say, I'm quite away, about 100 miles away from the usual patch back at OCC HQ, and the plan worked out. Lots and lots of cars seen and featured here on the channel for the very first time. So thank you so much for watching this particular video. I'll include links to similar ones at the end of this here. Please give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't done already. There'll be loads more videos along very soon. So bye for now.